These are the clouds that cause the heavens of the knowledge and understanding of all that dwell on the earth to be cloven asunder, even as he hath revealed. On that day shall the heaven be cloven by the clouds. Even as the clouds prevent the eyes of men from beholding the sun, so do these things hinder the souls of men from recognizing the light of the divine luminary. To this beareth witness that which hath proceeded out of the mouth of the unbelievers as revealed in the sacred book. And they have said, What manner of apostle is this? He eateth food and walketh the streets. Unless an angel be sent down and take part in his warnings, we will not believe. Other prophets similarly have been subject to poverty and afflictions, to hunger, and to the ills and chances of this world. As these holy persons were subject to such needs and wants, the people were consequently lost in the wilds of misgivings and doubts, and were afflicted with bewilderment and perplexity. How, they wondered, could such a person be sent down from God, assert his ascendancy over all the peoples and kindreds of the earth, and claim himself to be the goal of all creation? Even as he hath said, But for thee I would not have created all that are in heaven and on earth, and yet be subject to such trivial things. You must undoubtedly have been informed of the tribulations, the poverty, the ills, and the degradation that have befallen every prophet of God and his companions. You must have heard how the heads of their followers were sent as presents unto different cities, how grievous they were hindered from that whereunto they were commanded. Each and every one of them fell prey to the hands of the enemies of his cause, and had to suffer whatsoever they decreed. It is evident that the changes brought about in every dispensation constitute the dark clouds that intervene between the eye of man's understanding and the divine luminary which shineth forth from the dayspring of the divine essence. Consider how men for generations have been blindly imitating their fathers, and have been trained according to such ways and manners as have been laid down by the dictates of their faith. Were these men therefore to discover suddenly that a man who hath been living in their midst, who with respect to every human limitation hath been their equal, had risen to abolish every established principle imposed by their faith, principles by which for centuries they have been disciplined, and every opposer and denier of which they have come to regard as infidel, profligate, and wicked, they would of a certainty be veiled and hindered from acknowledging his truth. Such things are as clouds that veil the eyes of those whose inner being hath not tasted the salsible of detachment, nor drunk from the quathar of the knowledge of God. Such men, when acquainted with these circumstances, become so veiled that without the least question they pronounce the manifestation of God an infidel, and sentence him to death. You must have heard of such things taking place all down the ages, and are now observing them in these days. It behoveth us, therefore, to make the utmost endeavour that by God's invisible assistance these dark veils, these clouds of heaven-sent trials, may not hinder us from beholding the beauty of his shining countenance, and that we may recognize him only by his own self. And should we ask for a testimony of his truth, we should content ourselves with one, and only one, that thereby we may attain unto him who is the fountainhead of infinite grace, and in whose presence all the world's abundance fadeth into nothingness, that we may cease to cavil at him every day, and to cleave unto our own idle fancy. Gracious God, notwithstanding the warning, which in marvellously symbolic language and subtle allusions hath been uttered in past days, and which was intended to awaken the people of the world, and to prevent them from being deprived of their share of the billowing ocean of God's grace, yet such things as have already been witnessed have come to pass. Reference to these things hath also been made in the Qur'án, as witnessed by this verse. What can such expect but that God should come down to them overshadowed with clouds? A number of the divines, who hold firmly to the letter of the word of God, have come to regard this verse as one of the signs of that expected resurrection which is born of their idle fancy. This notwithstanding, the fact that similar references have been made in most of the heavenly books, and have been recorded in all the passages connected with the signs of the coming manifestation. Likewise, he saith, on the day when the heavens shall give out a palpable smoke, which shall enshroud mankind, this will be an afflictive torment. The All-Glorious hath decreed these very things that are contrary to the desires of wicked men, to be the touchstone and standard whereby he proveth his servants, that the just may be known from the wicked, and the faithful distinguished from the infidel. The symbolic term smoke denotes grave dissensions, the abrogation and demolition of recognized standards, and the utter destruction of their narrow-minded exponents. What smoke more dense and overpowering than the one which hath now enshrouded all the peoples of the world, which hath become a torment unto them, and from which they hopelessly fail to deliver themselves, however much they strive. So fierce is this fire of self burning within them, that at every moment they seem to be afflicted with fresh torments. The more they are told that this wondrous cause of God, this revelation from the Most High hath been made manifest to all mankind, and is waxing greater and stronger every day, the fiercer groweth the blaze of the fire in their hearts. The more they observe the indomitable strength, the sublime renunciation, the unwavering constancy of God's holy companions, who by the aid of God are growing nobler and more glorious every day, the deeper the dismay which ravageth their souls. In these days, praise be to God, the power of his word hath obtained such ascendancy over men, that they dare breathe no word. Were they to encounter one of the companions of God, who, if he could, would freely and joyously offer up 10,000 lives as a sacrifice for his beloved, so great would be their fear that they forthwith would profess their faith in him, whilst privily they would vilify and execrate his name, even as he hath revealed. And when they meet you, they say, we believe, but when they are apart, they bite their fingers' ends at you, out of wrath. Say, die in your wrath. God truly knoweth the very recesses of your breasts. Ere long, thine eyes will behold the standards of divine power, unfurled throughout all regions, and the signs of his triumphant might and sovereignty manifest in every land. As most of the divines have failed to apprehend the meaning of these verses, and have not grasped the significance of the day of resurrection, they therefore have foolishly interpreted these verses according to their idle and faulty conception. The one true God is my witness. Little perception is required to enable them to gather from the symbolic language of these two verses all that we have purposed and propounded, and thus to attain, through the grace of the All-Merciful, the resplendent morn of certitude. Such are the strains of celestial melody, which the immortal bird of heaven, wobbling upon the sadri of Baha, poureth out upon thee, that by the permission of God thou mayest tread the path of divine knowledge and wisdom.